The party continues through the evening, and when morning comes, Lee and the other students gather at the association, wearing combat suits. Bei tells them the exam will take place inside a gate, but they don't need to worry since he will accompany them. Lee knows that although the students are numerous, even their magic power combined is nothing in front of a B rank like Bei. Inside the gate, the air feels sticky. Bei explains that this feeling is because of the high density of magic in the air, and as they venture deeper inside, Bei orders them to stop. There is a group of goblins ahead of them, and just when the goblins notice them, Bei orders Hunters 1 and 3 to engage them. The student hunters defeat one goblin each fairly quickly, so Bei orders numbers 6 and 18 to fight next, and they also do quite well. But just as he takes Lee's name, Lee moves past him like the wind to engage the goblins. He hunts down goblins one by one, moving forward, cutting through them with ease, and displaying incredible skill. The students once again wonder if Lee is someone who just started out, while Bei notices that his weapon handling skill can even rival a B-ranker hunter like him. You have leveled up. As the fight ends, Bei advises the students to use their potions generously, and also to check their weapons' durability since the boss is about to appear. Meanwhile, Lee is thinking about something else entirely. He is saddened by the thought that the Demon King was killed by the 12 gods only because he didn't have enough time to surpass them. And Lee will suffer the same fate if he doesn't get stronger faster than the hunters who have already awakened. As the group moves deeper into the dungeon, there is a strange aura in the air. Everyone, including Lee and Bei, are shocked by the presence of such a strong magic power. Bei immediately orders them to run for the exit. Something is wrong, they can't face a foe like this. But before he could end his sentence, a giant fireball appeared from a distance, heading straight towards them. Bei's first instinct is to dodge the attack, but he can't do that with the students behind him. So he pulls out his dual-wielded daggers and activates his ability called the Viper Fangs, and parries the full force of the fireball. There is a huge explosion that lights up the whole cave. In the aftermath, Bei is worried. Even with his Viper Fangs, he couldn't nullify the whole attack. And as he looks behind, fortunately, Lee had also stepped forward to block the rest of the attack. Seeing Lee has had his back, Bei compliments him on his incredible ability. Lee says he could only do this since Bei took on most of the attack. A voice appears.
The Sky of Apocalypse wants you to eliminate the Goblin Archmage.
A Goblin Archmage is a monster that can even rival a B-rank hunter. What's a monster like that doing in a low-level dungeon? The students think the only one who can possibly face a monster like that is their instructor Bei. But Bei says the Archmage is a challenging opponent even for him, so he orders the student to evacuate immediately. When suddenly, Lee makes a strange request. It's that he would like to face the Archmage all alone. Hearing this, the students are shocked, while Bei immediately shuts down his request, telling Lee to not be full of himself. Lee might have defeated an orc, but the Archmage is on a different level. It's a tricky opponent who can use magic from a distance. It is equal to a B-rank hunter. But Lee tells him he knows what an Archmage is capable of, yet he still wants to face him alone. He shuts Bei up by saying that monsters in tutorial dungeons are for students anyway, so he has the full right to face it alone. Bei can't believe the words coming out of his mouth. He allows Lee to face him. Mission start. Lee readies his sword and shield and gets in a battle stance. The Archmage immediately casts multiple fireballs aimed straight at Lee. But as the fireballs approach him, Lee stands his ground. The fireballs don't explode on impact, instead they stop after making contact with Lee. The students think Lee has nullified the spell, but Bei knows that he is absorbing the fire. He wonders how is that even possible. Lee brushes off the remaining flames with a smile on his face and heads straight for the Archmage. The Archmage casts another spell that lights a spark on the ground, and the entire ground is engulfed in flames, which stops Lee from getting closer to him. Seeing Lee stopped in his tracks, the Archmage wears a creepy smile on his face. In a moment, Lee commands the fire to split apart, and the fire dissipates to the sides, making a path for Lee straight to the Archmage. Bei doesn't even know what's going on anymore. This Lee guy is totally overpowered. But it's all thanks to Lee's authority rule over fire that allows him to do incredible stuff like this. Lee runs straight for the Archmage. The smile on its face has disappeared as it hastily casts another spell. Lee coats his spear in flames, prepared to land the final blow. He lands multiple attacks with lightning-fast speed that punch giant holes through the Archmage, completely ripping it to shreds. The crowd is unable to believe their eyes. Lee actually did it. and thus starts the legend of a super rookie. A voice appears. Mission success. The Sky of Apocalypse is impressed by your performance. For succeeding in the mission, the Sky of Apocalypse sponsors you. You have been given the ability to summon an avatar. Lee is happy knowing he has received another one of the Demon King's abilities, the ability to summon avatars. That made the Demon King unrivaled. The exam is over, and Bei goes to the Hunter Association HQ in the evening. He approaches the association president, and the president smiles as he was waiting for Bei to report his findings on Lee, the super rookie. But when Bei reports what he witnessed about Lee, the association president is shocked to hear this. He asks if Lee is comparable to a genius like Chiwoo. Bei says Lee is even above Chiwoo regarding his talent. President finds it hard to believe, but he trusts Bei's opinion. He then asks how high is Lee's potential, to which Bei replies, it's high enough for the president to achieve his goals. The president smiles and looks forward to meeting Lee soon. Elsewhere, Yo and Kim meet Lee outside his home. Kim was worried, especially when he found out the tutorial dungeon's rank suddenly jumped from rank E to rank C, while Yo asks if Lee received any more offers from other guilds. In a flashback we see that Bei offered Lee to join the Hunter Association, which is even a step above guild offers. However, Lee refuses the offer and gives the same answer, that he is planning on going solo for now, although he would grow much faster by joining the association. Lee's real reason for refusing it was about keeping his ability secret, and to avoid a man in the association at all costs, the man we know as the director of the association, the man who is eager to meet Lee. Yo interrupts Lee's thought asking if he wants food, and the two guys leave excited to get some meat for dinner. Later, Lee is taking a shower when he opens the status. His stats have improved by quite a bit. But what's curious is the newly bestowed ability to summon avatars, an ability so rare that only a few can use it even among the 12 hunter gods. The avatar's ability allows its user to summon monsters like a bone dragon or a balrog. He decides to try this ability out, and as he is about to summon the creature, the scene cuts to Kim, who is excited to show something on his phone. And it says to subscribe to our channel right now for more awesome Manhwa recaps. Well, on a serious note, Kim shows an article titled, The Birth of a Super Rookie, which talks about Lee. He just found out that Lee defeated a goblin archmage on his own. The article doesn't mention Lee by his name, but Lee knows that the news must have already reached the top brass in the Hunter Association. Kim remarks that hunters are even more famous than celebrities these days, but he is curious to know why Lee is not interested in fame. Lee abruptly interrupts Kim to ask for a favor. He wants to go on dungeon raids. Next, we see Lee in a dungeon easily wiping out the goblins. And when an orc appears, Lee defeats him 2 in 1 hit. After this, some voices appear. The Sky of Apocalypse is pleased with your performance. You have leveled up. But Lee is not happy as he looks at a bracelet on his wrist. The bracelet says, Collecting Skeleton Avatar, but it needs souls to work. The reason Lee rushed to clear the dungeon was to get souls for this bracelet. But so far the avatar bracelet is yet to find a single soul, even with powerful monsters killed by Lee. Disappointed, Lee exits the dungeon where Kim stands waiting for him. Congratulating Lee for clearing his 4th dungeon, Kim asks him to leave any drops or items he wants to sell with him, and he will take care of it. Lee obliges, as he pulls many weapons out from his inventory skill. Kim says the money will be transferred to your account, but Lee is not interested in the money. He asks if Kim has already booked the next dungeon for him. Kim apologizes, saying that he couldn't find any suitable dungeons for him, as all of them are already booked. Lee is surprised to know this, especially considering that gate dungeons never close. Kim explains this by saying that a particular guild is planning to expand, so they have booked 20 low-level dungeons all at once. Normally the association doesn't accept these kinds of requests, but they had to accept it since all the other dungeons were already cleared. Hearing this, Lee's face is covered with shock and worry as he remembers something. He asks Kim if perhaps the name of this guild master is Choi Sung. Kim answers with a yes, they are booked by Choi Sung, the guild master of the North Army Guild. In this time, before Lee, the title of Super Rookie belonged to Choi Sung when he graduated. But in the future where Lee is originally from, Lee remembers Choi Sung as a powerful hunter working directly under the 12 gods. Choi Sung was a merciless tyrant with the blood of countless innocent people on his hands. He was famously known as War King Gunther, and it's about time Lee finally meets him in this world. In flashback, we see Choi Sung as War King Gunther in Lee's world. Many non-hunters are out there protesting against some kind of construction. An assistant asks Choi Sung what should we do about these protesters. This mere question angers Choi Sung. He thinks that these people are just ants, and if their great hunter overlords have destroyed all of their houses, they should have just built their homes somewhere else by now. Why should he care if an ant lives or dies? These non-hunters should be thankful to be left alive. With that said, he charges up a big attack and fires it directly at the village of these innocent protesters. And the devastating blast destroys the whole village. Back to the present, it turns out that this was Lee's own village that Choi Sung destroyed. And Lee remembers how his single attack took the lives of more than half the people that lived there. He is thinking about that when Lee hears a commotion going on and sees a sight that angers him. There is an old man begging the two hunters to stop breaking his handcart. But the hunters continue to wreck it with hideous smiles on their faces. And Lee gets to see why 100 years later, the world was so grim. Meanwhile, the man cries as he can only watch them crush his livelihood. Lee appears behind the old guy, sobbing on his knees, and he addresses the hunters to explain themselves. He asks them if they are some random thugs or something. But this angers the hunter. How can Lee address a hunter like him with such a casual tone? Filled with rage, Lee shows off some power of his own. Knowing Lee is a hunter too, the thug hunters start to sweat. Lee turns to the old guy to ask what happened, when the hunter jumps in to say the old man bumped into them with the cart. What they did was just compensation. The old man is obviously angry after hearing that bully logic. When Lee asks why they break the cart, the hunter says, "I am a hunter and everything that attacks me is my enemy." He warns Lee to watch himself because he is feeling attacked by him too. Meanwhile, Lee is out here trying his best to hold back his anger. He orders them to leave quietly. He will overlook this because they haven't hurt the old man yet. Hunter says, "You ain't the boss of me," and charges at Lee. But Lee easily sidesteps the attack and grabs his arm. He then turns him upside down, throwing him so hard that he just slams into the ground and loses consciousness. Meanwhile, the other hunter decides to fight dirty as he pulls out a weapon. Lee calmly lets him know, when you pull a weapon on someone, you should know what's coming next. Meanwhile, the hunter thinks he is a superior hunter than Lee because he is part of a guild, and starts charging at Lee. This time Lee doesn't hold back and punches the man right in the chin, instantly knocking him out mid-air. As the bullies lie there unconscious, Lee remarks that trash people like him talk about their guild as if it'll save them somehow. Later on, the sun goes down, and the officers from the Hunters Association arrive to arrest them. Kim is also there, and he compliments Lee for handling the situation perfectly. Lee remarks, hunters harassing non-hunters is a felony after all. After thanking Lee for doing the association's work for them, Kim mentions it's possible their guild may come after the old man. But the association will keep an eye on the situation. But just to be safe, Lee asks for the name of their guild. And it happens to be the North Army Guild, the same guild that has been expanding and booking all the dungeons. Lee instantly deduces in his head that this guild has strong connections with the association since they were given so many dungeons. He can't trust the association to protect the old man. The North Army Guild and the association are rotten to their cores, and just as Lee expected when he was summoned in for questioning, Lee was getting charged as an aggressor in the situation. It turns out that in a few days, the old man changed his testimony and blamed Lee for attacking the hunters for no reason. While heading to the association office, Lee is unsure why the old man would lie like that. Meanwhile, Kim assures him the association isn't that corrupt and surely nothing bad will happen. But since Lee is from the future, he knows the association has been corrupt since it was founded. Inside the office, an association officer asks Lee if it is true that he was found in a gate and has no memories of his past. Lee says yes. Next, he asks if Lee is the one who suppressed the hunters of the North Army Guild. Lee says yes, but then the officer switches his demeanor and asks if Lee was the one who intimidated the old man into falsely testifying against the North Army hunters, when actually Lee was the one who started the fight. Lee obviously denies this, so the officer calls in the old guy, asks him if Lee intimidated him. The elderly man appears afraid and unable to look Lee in the eyes, so Lee assures him that he has nothing to worry about. And, with teary eyes, the old man confirms that Lee did intimidate him, and he leaves the room, shedding a tear and feeling guilty. The officer smiles and asks Lee what he has to say for himself. Lee proceeds to drop his phone on the table, which has a video of the whole incident. They don't need to rely on words, the evidence speaks for itself. Lee is free to go, but he is still in a bad mood. He knows that even with the evidence, the hunters will not be punished, but they will still charge the old man for lying under oath. He still needs more strength to change the world. To Lee's surprise, Yo is out there waiting for him. Turns out Kim called Yo since no one in the association was helping him, and Yo was the most influential person Kim knew. Lee thanks them both for doing their best to help him, when suddenly from behind, the old man shows up. He falls to his knees and starts to beg Lee for his forgiveness. The old man feels pathetic for turning against the man who saved him, but he had no choice because the North Army threatened to kill his granddaughter. This revelation especially astounds Kim, who shouts why the old man is revealing this now when everything has settled. This could have turned out pretty bad for Lee, but the old guy continues to apologize because he knows they are coming for him, since they failed to incriminate Lee. Yo tells the man to go home, and Yo guarantees his League guild will protect him and his family. As the man leaves, we see Lee fuming in anger due to this whole situation. He only survived because of the video he recorded out of habit, since the world has always been cruel to him, as he was a non-hunter in the past, or rather the future. Suddenly Lee senses someone coming towards them, and lo and behold, it's Choi Sung, the leader of the North Army Guild. Choi Sung is letting his magic power flow freely to show his strength. He only addresses Yo. He says, "Looks like the League Guild's master is close with the new super rookie." Kim notices that the association has disclosed Lee's private information to Choi Sung, which is illegal. Choi Sung puts his hand forward to shake hands with Yo, still imitating his aura, maybe in an attempt to intimidate Yo. But he chose the wrong man to mess with, as Yo reveals a glimpse of his power as he shakes his hand. And Choi Sung is already worried, while Yo politely tells him not to mess with his homie Lee ever again, or he will regret making an enemy of him. Choi Sung couldn't take it anymore, so he pulls his hand back, but it was too late. His hand is already broken. Yo corrects himself, saying, "I can't really consider you my enemy, so you should watch yourself if you wanna live." Later that day, in a coffee shop, we see Kim furious with the association. Turns out, even with all the evidence, the bullies got off with just a small fine. Lee knows that this is nothing, since hunters in the future don't even get punished with a fine. So he asks about what happened to the old guy instead. Surprisingly, thanks to Yo and Lee, they left the old man with just a warning, since the North Army Guild admitted it was their fault. Lee immediately knows something is wrong. He knows the nature of War King Gunther. He is cold and merciless, and he strongly believes in getting revenge. But unlucky for him, Lee is also someone who believes in the concept of taking revenge if someone messes with you. To get stronger, Lee asks Yo to join him in a dungeon raid. All the low-level dungeons are booked, and since this is a higher level one, he will need Yo's help, while Yo is happy to fight alongside a prodigy like Lee. Other League Guild members step forward as they recognize Lee as the famous super rookie. They welcome him with open arms and show their respect. Yo tells him, "These guys are Chial and Han. They were the ones who rescued Lee after he was first awakened." Lee thanks them for saving him, but when he looks around to find any well-known figures of the future, he finds nothing. That's probably because all the names who fought against the 12 hunter gods were erased from history. Yo tells them to prepare themselves and get ready to face this C-rank gate, and all the raid members follow his lead. Elsewhere in the North Army Guild headquarters, Choi Sung is meeting with his guild's vice leaders. The first is his younger brother Choi Soo. He thinks they need to teach Lee a lesson, setting aside their expansion plans. While the other vice leader, Chang, thinks they need to stabilize their expansion and let this incident go, because in the end, their members were the ones at fault. Choi Soo thinks their members did nothing wrong because non-hunters are just mere bugs surviving thanks to the great hunters. They should just lower their heads like the insects they are. Hearing these unacceptable bigoted views, Chang gets furious, while Choi Soo also prepares himself. These two vice guild leaders are about to throw hands right there and then, when Choi Sung angrily orders them to stop immediately. He thinks Choi Soo is right. They need to execute their revenge on Lee before anything else. Hearing this, Chang is disappointed, while Choi Soo is really happy. Choi Sung elaborates, they can't let anyone who disrespects their guild go without suffering consequences. Chang objects to this mindless revenge conquest, but Choi Sung mentions a person they know is also interested in humbling an arrogant guy like Lee, and that person will make all arrangements for their revenge because, after all, defeat is not an option for the North Army Guild. That's all for part 1. I hope you guys enjoyed the new editing style with all the sound effects and different voices. That took some work to add, but it's worth it if it makes the experience better for you guys. So please show your boy some love and leave a like on this video. Also consider subscribing. More awesome content on the way, and I'll see you in the next video.